Dude, thanks for joining us. Obviously, Dingane has got a lot of people talking in the industry.
I'm flattered. Thanks very much for that, Gareth. Yeah.
The slayer of Mr. Zulu Jeet. Obviously, we'd like to ask you a couple of questions and just get a bit of a breakdown and some theory behind how you got to this point.
Sure.
Firstly, and I'm sure everyone can agree, it's a big ass fly. How well does it cast? How well does it swim? And the thought process around the size and volume of the fly.
Sure. Well, let me start off by saying thank you. You were pivotal in a lot of my, or the inception of my sort of KwaZulu-Natal fly fishing journey. I learned a lot from you. It was very cool, and then I carried on, and I got to a stage where the apprentice became the master. But yeah, look, you know, you can only call a pattern highly effective when it's done its due diligence,
sure.
And
sure.
you know, there's a considerable amount of fish behind its name. The thing is that in our pursuit in chasing a 1 meter GT on the South African coastline, I think there's arguably 17 recorded. Well, not arguably, there are 17 probably recorded, and then on a speculative basis maybe 20, 25 GTs
sure.
that have actually been caught.
A handful.
Yeah, a very small amount of fish that have been caught off our coastline on
an even smaller amount of people that have done it.
Correct. So when it does happen, obviously it's in the fisherman's nature to sort of sit down, reverse engineer the process, and try and get as many of those different sort of constituents that contributed to that success to ensure continued success going forward. So this has landed a big GT. I have hooked several other bigger GTs that have come off. I think that's the name of the game. And most recently a friend of mine went fishing, and he got absolutely smoked and destroyed, and unfortunately the hook opened. So
plus the Seychelles, different environment, but arguably the same fish, and still creating results. Yeah.
Sure. I think the biggest thing is that the fish that we can see and we are aware of have actively made concerted effort or gone out of their way, so to speak, to chase this fly down, if not eat it. Whereas in similar conditions, throwing the more hyper-realistic commercial patterns and things like that, we've got absolutely no interest. So I don't think it's immaterial. I think you've got to look at what's making the fish react in a favorable manner for us. And
but based on your experience, this is definitely been a game changer.
If I was going to hedge my bets, this is the pattern that I'd throw all day, every day if I went for a trip down there. Yeah. So look, it's a big fly, Gareth, and it seems counterintuitive to make a fly that you're going to be casting all day, every day, potentially into some very should we say adverse fishing conditions and wind. It seems a bit counterintuitive. You know, the key is that this fly was designed, well, I designed the fly sort of taking and cherry picking a lot of different techniques from other people in the industry.
Sure.
Johnny King, the Semper patterns, the brush flies. I didn't like the way that your commercially available brush flies were falling flat, so to speak, when they were wet.
Look good dry, but different in real-time environment.
The patterns look good in hand. I'm not saying brush flies don't have an application, they do.
No, of course,
but the conditions where we are chasing these fish are very different from the flat conditions that are commensurate with the Seychelles, the Maldives. And the brush flies tend to get quite snake and eel-like in the water.
Yeah.
And I wanted a fly that was going to maintain its bulk, maintain its profile, be as big as I could possibly get while mitigating the weight factor as much as possible, which is a catch-22, because in some aspects of the fly, which I'll discuss later, you want a little bit of weight, such as in the keeling of the hook, and so on and so forth. But the fly has a rattle in it. Rattle's going to add extra weight. Obviously, we can hypothesize that may appeal to one or more of the fish's other senses. You know, if we're trying to stack the odds in our favor, I'd rather have that than not have that.
It's not going to hurt.
Sure, and I'm also of the opinion. Well, I'm not of the opinion. The rattle in the sort of shoulder area of the fly helps create that bulk and prevents the fly from falling flat when it's wet. So, structurally speaking, the rattle is a very pivotal and very important aspect of that fly, over and above the fact that it may or may not have audible qualities that attract the game fish.
Sure.
The hook is a big hook. There are a plethora of different hooks that you can choose from. I tend to shy away from the SL12S sort of style hooks, and nothing against those hooks. Those are great hooks which have certain application, but when you need a heavier gauge.
You just grab that, please.
You need a heavier gauge, stronger hook You've got a very small sort of window where you need to stop that fish, and you're going to be putting inordinate amounts of pressure on that fish, and a heavier gauge hook is required. We open hooks up all the time. Even the heavier gauge hooks themselves open. So that's why we need that. That's very important. Also, you're spending an hour and a half to 2.5 hours really perfecting these patterns. The SL12S, in my opinion, are not as corrosion resistant, and it's nonsensical for me to be spending that amount of time on a fly, and you have to chuck it away at the end of the day. You also need to make sure that that hook is free of or as corrosion resistant as possible to maintain its integrity.
So when the shot comes, you've got to make sure that you convert.
That's it. And the SL12S is quite a light hook, and we need a heavier hook and a wider gap to keel the fly effectively. How a fly keels on the flats is going to be very different to how a fly keels with a big profile in the surf zone against current. And through trial and error and a lot of frustration, a lot of the earlier prototypes of this fly would spin in the water, and that would obviously drive me up a wall. Notwithstanding that's a very unnatural presentation.
Of course.
In addition to twisting your leader and causing a plethora of other issues.
It's just very unnatural, yeah.
That's it. So the heavier gauge hook helps keel the fly correctly. Heavier gauge hook is obviously stronger, so more chance of landing that beast sharper when you do in fact prick him. And
And the color combo, a bit about that.
Yeah, a lot of people sort of look at that and it seems a little bit strange, but there's a lot of thought that goes into that as well. If you're looking at baitfish, okay, by and large baitfish have a lighter underbody and they have a darker overbody.
Of course.
Okay, so we're trying to incorporate that in this pattern. Baitfish have a large trigger point, which is the eye, which a lot of people think is
gill flare, yeah.
That's it, which I think is very, very, very important. But for me, contrast is more important. When you're fishing in the water column, colors don't do what they do outside of water. The light spectrum and the way that affects certain colors is different in the water. And I've chosen a color that will be highly visible in the most amount of water depths. It does have a sort of trigger point in there, in sort of some of the shallower depths. But it's the easiest to see, it's got the biggest profile, the best silhouette, and is as baitfish-esque in its color sort of coordination. Ironically, it's a black and purple fly. You don't get black and purple fish other than the wrasse and things like that flying on the reef.
But still, yeah.
That's it. And, in the low light conditions where you're fishing, a fish is more likely to see that in those darker conditions and identify dark on top, light on the bottom, trigger points as being a potential food item than a lot of the other more hyper-realistic colors and patterns that would otherwise be invisible to the predators.
And it's important also to say that the general opinion that a GT is this thing that'll eat a dustbin litter for given half the chance and is not picky. When they're feeding, that may hold some water and be true, but they can equally be just as skittish and just as circumspect when they're not in that position. And having fish following natural patterns and turning away or not showing any interest whatsoever, the black and purple is definitely something.
Several trips to the coastline, we were fishing along there. We had fish that we could visibly see, and presenting at them, there was without a shadow of doubt far more interest or sort of aggression
behavior,
towards the black and purple. Fish actively pursued this. If they didn't eat it, they would chase the fly right up to the rod length.
And that's middle of the day, low light.
Middle of the day, low, when we could actually see what was going on.
Exactly.
But whereas we threw hyper-realistic colors and patterns at fish, and we got absolutely no interest whatsoever. And I think a lot of people don't sort of take into consideration is the fact that a baitfish is not designed to be visible. A baitfish is designed in such a way as to avoid predation.
Of course.
So mimicking that too accurately might actually count against you and not in your favor when trying to allure big fish at a sizable distance. So look, fly fishing and fly design is purely speculative. You don't really know what's going through the fish's mind, but in terms of anecdotal experience, this fly got considerably more interest.
And time will tell. I mean,
over several trips.
Yeah, so far it's done well, and give it a couple more seasons and we'll have another conversation. But yeah, so far so good.
Sure. So yeah, some of the tackle and stuff like that we used to throw these flies. I started off using, the tried old Ufuru lines that Ben Pretorius put together, and they were a great line considering the resources and technology available at that particular time.
Slick line from Siam.
That's it, and it's landed a lot of fish. It's a good line, but obviously with technological advancements, you've got I'd say more applicable lines with stronger cores, which is very, very important. The Rio Leviathan line has a 70-pound core. A lot of the old salts that have caught these fish and fish on that coastline sort of tend to speak very highly of that. I've got one. It's a great line. It turns over big flies nicely. But the line of choice that I'm using at the moment is the Scientific Angler's Big Water Taper line, and purely because it has a 100-pound core. As I was saying to you earlier, you've got to reverse engineer the process. It's pointless going after this elusive, sort of almost
mythical.
Yeah, almost mythical creature. It's the proverbial Bigfoot, the Bigfoot of the KZN coastline, hooking one and then losing it because of tackle failure. It's not long flats where you can allow that fish to run. You need to stop him, and you need to stop him within 20 to 30 meters, otherwise you will lose that fish. So a 100-pound core in the Scientific Angler's Big Water Taper. I'm using the Max Sync. It's got an intermediate running line with quite a fast.
8 to 9 IPS head?
I think it's a 7. It's a 6 to 7 IPS head, which is inches per second to those that are not in the know. Yeah. And that's also great for swinging your fly in the current. You know, the advantage that we have.
The wash and
that's it. The advantage that we have over the conventional anglers and things like that is that conventional anglers, by virtue of the fact that they're using mono and braid, can't swing a fly in that.
Plus all the brandy drinking that they're doing. So
100%, and those awful Abu Garcia shirts that a lot of them wear. Just the GTs are not fond of those.
No class.
Not fond of those at all. So there's it's not just a fly strapped up. It's a fly that I'd say still in a developmental stage. It's getting better and better and better. The original step-by-step, which I put on my Instagram channel, the fly, has changed quite a bit since then. So that's why we're doing this video. If anyone has any questions, they're more than welcome to sort of comment at the bottom of this video or DM the relevant sort of platforms that are posting this. But it's a great pattern. I fish, it's the most important, or arguably the most important aspect of what we're fishing is the confidence that we have in that.
Of course.
And I've got a lot of confidence in that fly, and the fact that I've got the confidence to fish this fly 4 or 5 days in a row in succession, irrespective of the conditions, in a fishery that you can't afford really to hedge your bets because your window is so small, is testimony to the pattern.
Cool. Well, thank you for that. Appreciate it.